Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Lisa Moon. She is an LCSW for Better Choice and also a BHS coordinator. That's basically your title, correct?
Correct.
I used a lot of acronyms in there. So first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Maybe tell everybody what UCFS stands for.
United Community and Family Services.
And we're going to talk about gambling addiction for the most part today. But let's talk about you as a coordinator and what you do.
Okay, I oversee the gambling treatment program. We treat gamblers and persons affected by gambling, and we have treatment programs in our New London and Norwich sites.
Now, we happen to be in an area, and you could include, you know, really all of Connecticut and Rhode Island in this, the fact that we have two casinos here. You know, if you're in New York City, it's actually closer for you to drive to the Connecticut casinos than it is to drive to Atlantic City, plus Rhode Island and Massachusetts and all Connecticut people. And it's not just casinos. That's a very small part of what people have to endure with their gambling addiction. Talk about it a little bit.
Right. Well, with gambling addiction, I mean, it really is a preoccupation. I mean, you see clients that are really, you know, find it necessary to get to their game or their sports betting or to the casino. We see people, you know, financial ruin, you know, lose their nest egg, you know, time with family. I mean, the gambling addiction really, you know, is across all areas of their life.
Yeah, and really extends out beyond themselves, and it affects family, friends. They could end up losing family and friends and their career because of it, right?
Their career, their homes, their spouses. We've seen it all. Yeah.
And so, what do you do to help? What do they have to? Is it a matter of them hitting rock bottom? Do they have to reach out and ask for help in some way? How does it work?
You know, we get people at all different, you know, pathological gambling is the most severe end of problem gambling. Problem gambling is when, you know, clients will start to have some consequences, mental health issues, maybe substance abuse, start to have some financial loss. When you start to get into the pathological gambling, that means that they are still gambling beyond several consequences. So what we provide, we have peer counseling that helps them, you know, speak with our peer counselor that's been in recovery 35 years, help them get into a budget, get a money safety plan with their family, you know, immediately. We offer individual, family, and group therapy so that they can have group therapy with their peers.
When you talk about pathological gambling, you have really traveled down a road far to get to that point. But where is the point where it's decided, or you decide, or somebody else does, where you have basically crossed the threshold to where something has become a problem, where it's not just simply recreational fun that you can walk away from?
You know, it's just everything in moderation. It's just like drinking too much, eating too much, you know, just like any of the other addictions. It's when it's affecting them, you know, we see their mental health, you know, and everybody has a different bottom. Some clients, they may be threatened that their spouse is going to leave them because of what they've done. They've lost the family nest egg, their retirement's gone, they've taken out an extra home equity line and their spouse has found out. You know, so it could be at that point, or we've had people that have come to us that are homeless or have lost their homes or on the verge of losing their homes that we've helped them recoup. I mean, it's really just everybody's bottom's different. And that's why we're trying to increase awareness to bring people in much sooner so it doesn't have to get to that point.
Right. They talk about an alcoholic. Once they're an alcoholic, they're always fighting it for the rest of their life. They may stay sober, but they're always an alcoholic. Is that the same with gambling? Are you always a gambler? It's
very similar, and actually DSM-5, which is what we use to diagnose, has recognized gambling under the substance abuse disorders. So now, you know, it is very similar, and, you know, we do have to recognize it as such.
Is it more likely that someone will recognize themselves as suddenly having a problem, or does it have to be some sort of outside influence that causes them to, you know, wake up one day?
You know what, it depends. You know, people don't like losing money, you know, so sometimes they can kind of catch themselves and find out about treatment, or somebody could be real compassionate and kind of say, hey, I heard about this program, and gently nudge them towards treatment. So we've seen all different things. We've seen some people, you know, have an epiphany and say, I can't do this to myself anymore and my family, or we've had, you know, kind of like the come hook or by crook, you know, family member kind of threaten them that they really
it's not
need
necessarily
treatment.
Just a gentle nudge in some cases. Sometimes it has
very
to be.
Serious.
Yeah, you have to really take it. So what? Yeah, I'm trying to understand the mindset when somebody finally does come for help, what kind of services are available to them? Can you describe like what's out there for them?
Sure, we do an evaluation. A lot of times there is a co-occurring diagnosis. A lot of times depression, suicide is very high for gamblers.
There's always something else accompanying it, usually, right?
A lot of times,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, the anxiety, loss of sleep, depression. So we do have psychiatric services for them to meet with a doctor or prescriber, if that's part of the picture, to help get them stabilized. We have individual therapy, so they meet with one-on-one counseling. We have group therapy, so they have therapy amongst their peers. And that includes education and process, so they can kind of process what's going on, learn from their peers. And then we have our peer counseling component. Like I said, John is our peer counselor. He's been sober or abstinent from gambling for 35 years. So he'll meet with them, meet with the spouse, get the finances secure. I mean, we got to act fast. I mean, these people come in dire situations. And so the spouse, a lot of times John will invite in, and it's like, do we need to get the house in the other spouse's name, or what do we need to do to secure the finances immediately?
Now, you mentioned John being, kind of clean from it for 35 years, but is it helpful to have somebody who has experienced it themselves so that the person can sort of identify with them, they know what they're going through?
Absolutely. People, love that component because it's the real deal. It's
Right.
somebody that's walked in their shoes.
Like an alcoholic will have a sponsor if you're using the AA method,
Correct. And actually, speaking of that, we just started a Gamblers Anonymous meeting in addition to the services that Better Choice offers at UCFS in Norwich. And that's on Fridays at noon.
Is it a similar type of situation where it's just the people gather and they kind of stand up maybe and talk? Or it's almost like an admission of your problem that you have. Does that help?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And Gamblers Anonymous is just similar to any other self-help group like AA, NA. They can have a sponsor, and so forth. Everybody has time to share. And it's a completely anonymous self-help meeting. Don't have to give names or anything.
In your sphere of influence where you work, what is the most prominent form of gambling that tends to be a problem around here?
Well, I mainly work out of the Norwich office. We also have New London, but being that we're so close to the two casinos, Foxwoods and Mohegan, I would say casino gambling is the biggest around this area.
Do the casinos, obviously, they want people to frequent their establishments, of course, but do they take, strong action and try to recognize it and help where they can? Or
we found that they can, and we also have a partnership with the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, and so they go into the casinos a lot. The casinos let them educate staff, employees. They recognize it. They of course don't want to see people suffer.
Can a person who has a problem, like a casino, there's so much more than just the gambling aspect. You can go for dinner, shows, and stuff like that. Can a person conceivably enjoy those aspects without the draw to go into the gambling, or is it just too close?
Most times we find it's too close. Of course, we have clients that say, oh, I have points. I want to use the rest of my points. I want to go to dinner. I want to use the shops, or, these point cards, they can use anywhere in the casino. So it is a trigger for them. 9 times out of 10, it's not a real successful place to frequent. With that issue, most times people just abstain from going to the casino altogether.
Yeah, I have someone who, has a problem and has worked it out so that he has banned himself from the casino. Yes. And what he has to do is, if there's some business work related that he has to be like in, one of the ballrooms or something like that, he writes a letter and the casino grants him permission to be in there. Otherwise, he has banned himself for the most part all of the times to be in there. And that's how he handles it. And it seems to work for him.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And that's something we suggest right away, especially if it's a casino gambler, to ban themselves from both casinos.
Now, casinos are one thing. I mean, they're a fact of life. They're here in our neck of the woods. Something that exists everywhere are things like lottery tickets, whether it's the scratch kind or, the Powerballs or the Mega Millions of the world. Talk about that a little bit.
Right. We have a lot of clients that they scratch, they do their lottery, and it's the same thing. I mean, sometimes they just need support or don't go to the convenience stores on their own. We also, with Better Choice, we know that people aren't willing or able or for whatever reason, just can't go right to abstinence. So we do harm reduction. We do work with them on trying to reduce the gambling if that's their treatment goal. So we work with them. It's all individualized, and they can determine, do I want to limit my frequency or limit an amount? And some are successful. We do have some in our program that do harm reduction, and they're successful with it.
That's a good point because, some addictions, they say maybe it's not a good idea to try to go cold turkey on it. And maybe for some people this is the case here. If you can maybe wean yourself off of it. Smoking, most people will try to wean themselves off of it as opposed to just one day just stop. And maybe that's the case with this too.
Right. I mean, like I said, we've had people be successful. I mean, sometimes with the spouse on board and the money is secure, and let's say they can only afford 100 a week as opposed to 500 a week or whatever they were doing before. We consider that them meeting their treatment goals.
Another thing is sports gambling. How prevalent is that?
Very. March is Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and I think on purpose
For a reason,
because of March Madness.
Right.
Yes, it's huge, and it's so easy. I mean, there are clients that just call their bookie, bet on an app. Don't even need their credit card. They just memorize their credit card and call in a bet. And people just look at their applications on their phone. I mean, they don't even have to go to the internet.
Boy, that's the thing about technology. It's great, but if used the wrong way, you can jump on your iPad, your phone.
Yes.
There are apps to allow you to do all that stuff.
Yes.
I mean, that's just, it just makes it too easy if you have a problem.
Right. And we have some clients that really can't watch football games because then they're obsessed over, I would have won if I made that bet or this bet. Yeah.
There's a PSA that's on where the kid is upstairs, and smashing his TV because that shot was money that the basketball player missed. How about kids getting involved in gambling? Is that something that's starting to be an issue?
Or dice games, and that's something that really the schools are trying to take a look at and kind of figure out, especially with the internet. They don't know if the kids are 18, placing bets, or they bet with their friends on the basketball court. I bet you $10 you can make that shot, and it's like, it's just so prevalent. It's everywhere. People speak it and don't even know it.
Yeah, and may not even think it's a big deal because we're just doing it for fun on the playground or something like that. For a while, I guess it was in the 90s where, you could not necessarily have to go to a physical place to play poker. You could jump online, and those were prevalent for a while, and you could really dump a lot of money. And then, the government got involved to kind of crack down on it, but for a while it seemed like you could just just do everything online and get into that kind of trouble, never leaving the comfort of your own house.
Never leaving the comfort, yeah. And actually, one thing that the Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling tried to address is knowing those online gamblers are going to be online. So if they get into trouble, there's a chat line. If you go to Connecticut Council on Problem Gambling, ccpg.org, and go to their website, hit gamblers, and then you hit a live chat now. They can speak with somebody every day of the week.
Well, let's go to a break now since you mentioned that website. Is there another website, maybe for UCFS, that you want to give out? Or?
www.ucfs.org, and our helpline is 860-823-3094.
And we'll put the graphics up on the screen, too, for people to go and see. Lisa Moon is our guest today. I'm Sean Murphy. We'll take a break and come right back. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Lisa Moon. She is an LCSW license coordinator.
Clinical.
Too many acronyms, and she's a BHS coordinator for Better Choice, part of UCFS, so it falls under that umbrella.
Correct.
There's a lot of stuff that we still need to get to. We talked about sports gambling, but here's something that's even bigger that's so prominent these days, and that's fantasy sports and the gambling that's involved in that. And this goes all the way to the top. Like, even with the NFL, if you were to watch the NFL Red Zone, which shows every score, that's basically for fantasy players because they want to see, how many yards and how many points, and that's basically for them. Fantasy sports, and I would imagine the gambling aspect of that is huge now.
Oh, yeah, there's even in-play betting. I mean, it's literally like every moment. I mean, people are staying up studying this stuff. I mean, it's like they don't want to leave their house and not go into work. I mean, it really can be all-consuming. Used to be fun, where you would hear about kids or just, young adults that just kind of want to see if they could, just win. But now with the money involved.
Yep, it just turned evil. It turned into an addictive quality that people play for a completely different reason.
Correct.
And I never got into it because if you have a team that's your favorite team, you root for your team. But now with so many fantasy players, they have a player that's on this team and another one's on this team. So I want my team to win, but I don't want them to win by more than 14 points because then, you know, and that's what it's all about. And it really dilutes the enjoyment of just watching, you know, sports in general.
It just becomes obsessional, really.
And, you know, I hate to say it, we just talked about this before the break. You know, March Madness, even if you're not gambling, every office that you could think of probably fills out a bracket. You know what I mean? And maybe you'll throw money in the pot, and even you don't even know, you know, if you're not into it, if you don't study it carefully, you don't even know what you're betting on. But you're playing along because that's part of the group.
Right. Fortunately, at UCFS, that's not going on, or at least not going on that we're aware of, because of the Better Choice, because of our program. So there is awareness. We also have a disordered integration program, which means that we're trying to, you know, raise awareness in all areas of UCFS, because we have dental, primary care, and so forth. So everybody's pretty aware that we have Better Choice. So I hope they're not.
Since you mentioned that, the dental is addiction. Is that covered under a person's health insurance? Addiction, gambling addiction.
Glad you mentioned that. It actually is. We can bill insurance, but we also have a state-funded grant that the Connecticut Lottery funds Better Choice, and we're also under the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. So we're a grant-funded program that if clients can't afford it, or if their insurance doesn't cover it, or if their therapist isn't covered for whatever reason, then the grant will completely pay for treatment.
I was going to ask you how you were funded. So mostly it's from grants through the state.
Correct.
And,
yeah.
So let's talk about, we've talked about the gambler themselves and what they can do, but peripherally around them, their spouse, they have to bear a lot of what's going on in the person's life, spouse or family members or even friends. But talk about that, the people around the person.
Oh yeah, we treat persons affected by gambling, and I really want to make that clear. It could be a spouse, a friend, a partner, a daughter, sister, brother, you name it. We've had them in the program because it really affects everybody in the family. And, you know, they can come in for individual counseling. They could also go to Gam-Anon, which is a community-based meeting, which is part of Gamblers Anonymous, but it's for family members. So there's a few throughout the state that, you know, or even gamanon.org. A lot of people go to the website and find support because they need help with, you know, I don't want to micromanage my husband, but, you know, I don't know what to do. You know, I have all the credit cards, but I feel like I'm babysitting. So we just help them, you know, have safe boundaries and, you know, just kind of figure out how to renegotiate their new life, you know, with the person who's struggling.
Is it a lot of times, are they afraid to approach the person that has the problem, or maybe they've tried and just aren't getting through to them? What are they, you know, and they're probably wondering what they're doing wrong.
Yes, and that's one thing with the helpline, which again is 860-823-3094. We've had a lot of people call and just for advice. They don't have to come into treatment.
They can be anonymous?
It can be anonymous. We answer the phone. You will get a Better Choice staff member anytime you call. We've had persons affected by gambling, family members, call us and just ask for advice, like how can I reach this person? You know, I can't get through to them. I'm scared to, you know, set down a threat or a consequence, or what's my bottom line, or, you know, just kind of some help with coaching, you know, just how do I approach this person? And our best advice, honestly, is just with compassion. It's like anything else, you'd be concerned with your loved one. You know, if they were diabetic and eating sugar all the time, you know, you would gently, you know, suggest other options, or gently, you know, slide somebody, you know, a business card or a website in front of them. And unfortunately, if they really don't hear them, then it may have to get to some kind of consequences. We've had spouses, you know, or significant others threaten to leave, you know, just because it's really affecting their lives too.
Does it get to a point where, I mean, you talk about interventions, is it people just don't see it, that they're experienced, but they don't see it, that there's a problem? This could really be with any addiction, obviously, but the person themselves doesn't see it while everyone around them does. For some reason, they can't see it.
I think they can on some level, right? But it's just so ingrained, just in denial. And it's just a very scary thing. It's a really, you know, it's like a hidden addiction, gambling. Like sometimes it takes a long time for it to be uncovered, or for a spouse to find out, like, hey, our retirement's gone or our nest egg's gone. So it's not like somebody that's coming out of a bar, you know, stumbling down drunk. It's a lot of times it's hidden, and it's very painful addiction. And
you just don't see the consequences down the road that you'll, if you're going to drain the savings account of the kid's college fund, you think maybe you can just fix it down the road, and then down the road comes.
Right. It's the biggest thing with pathological gambling is chasing their losses. They just keep returning, like, nope, I'm going to get that money back. Like they have almost like the inability to see that money is gone. Like they believe they can get it back day after day after day.
And then there's also, I think, like the pride or the shame factor that even if they know, but they can't take that first step because it is a shame thing or it's a pride thing. You have to get by that in order to get that first bit of help if you're doing it alone, especially.
That's
right?
absolutely correct. It's very, very shameful addiction, and a lot of times clients really come to us like pretty much suicidal. I mean, they're afraid to come home and tell their spouse nothing's left, or we, lost Joey's college fund, or I mean, it's very, very painful to come to terms with. Sometimes, with an alcoholic, the spouse may know, oh, my husband drinks, X amount.
A lot more
each
telltale
night.
signs.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like the walk of shame. It's very painful to have to admit what's going on.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and with finances anyway, like a lot of people are uncomfortable speaking about finances. And so part of what we do with Better Choice and our integration project within UCFS is to get counselors to ask those finance questions. It's like people are so private about their finances anymore. But if you were to drill down and say, well, you had a fight with your spouse, tell me what that's about. And then they may say, oh, I was at the casino and I lost this amount of money. And so we start to kind of uncover and peel away the onion.
But that's tough to get them to really open up.
About
I mean,
finances.
you're sitting in a psychiatrist's office for all intents and purposes, right? Where you're supposed to be the one to do all the talking and uncover all your secrets. That's one of the hardest things to do. Of all the things that we've talked about today, is there any type of gambling that we haven't hit on today? We hit sports and fantasy. We happen to live in an area that has casinos. We talked about lottery tickets and scratch tickets. What else is there?
Oh, what else is there? Little dice games,
we talked about that with the kids in school.
Yeah.
I mean, adults do it too, but that's something to be concerned of. Can you get preventative with stuff like kids in school, getting to them early?
Definitely getting to them early. I mean, there are signs, there are websites that parents could check in their phone. I mean, it's just like anything else you'd be concerned about your kid looking up on the internet. I mean, if you see that they're going to these gambling websites, you see that they have any kind of cards or gambling paraphernalia on them, or they didn't, eat lunch, or they lost their lunch money. So there are telltale signs that I think teachers and, parents can really start to look for.
I think kids get themselves involved with sports gambling because they have role models in their eyes, or heroes that they looked up to that are in these leagues, and then it turns into, instead of just watching it, beginning to bet on it, maybe with their friends or something like that, or like you said, just out on the playground, shooting balls for money or something, and that turns into that.
Right. And if your parents are, gamblers, then children are 4 times more likely to be at risk.
Oh, really?
And then, you see, parents that hold card games every Saturday. So what do you think little Johnny sees, every week? So they just think, well, I can bet on something, or so unfortunately, it's being modeled for them as well in the homes.
Yeah, that's not exactly the image you want to see. Yeah, poker night, and you're kind of, not only is the gambling part of it bad, but you're loosening your inhibitions if you're at poker night with the fellas or just adults who are having a beverage, smoking or something like that, gambling, all the things that don't exactly represent necessarily great parenting, I would imagine, right?
Right.
Let's take one more break and come right back with Lisa Moon. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. So you have an event coming up that you want to talk about. Is this a sort of a raise awareness event, or is this a fundraising event? What is it?
Yes, it is. It's Problem Gambling Awareness Month. And we have Dr. Tom Brofman coming from Eastern Connecticut State University, and he's giving a talk to help raise awareness. This is a community-based event from 10 to 12 on Friday, March 27th at our UCFS Norwich site, which is 47 Town Street. Again, from 10 to noon, and the topic is everything you wanted to know about gambling but were afraid to ask. So hopefully this will bring in, people that just even have the littlest question. I've marketed it all throughout UCFS. We've marketed it on campus, all throughout the town and locally and all of our sites throughout UCFS. So we hope to get a good turnout to really educate the public. And this is just one of many events that I would imagine will occur throughout the course of the year. That's correct. All right, and this event and the others can be found on the website, which is? www.ucfs.org. And our helpline, again, for Better Choice is 860-823-3094. And if somebody happens to be calling from another part of the state or something like that, I'm sure that you can kind of steer them in the right direction for something that's close to them. Oh, that's correct. And there's Better Choices throughout the state of Connecticut and in other states. So definitely we will find them a treatment program. All right, Lisa Moon, the BHS coordinator for Better Choice of UCFS. Pleasure having you on the show today. We learned a lot. That is our show for today. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. Till next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.